Hello, my name is Norm Anders, and I'm a senior cybersecurity architect with Insight, and today I'm going to talk about Microsoft Copilot for Security. So what's different about Copilot for Security? Simply put, Copilot for Security has been designed and stylized specifically to operate within a security realm. Its purpose in life is not answering generic questions and helping someone draft a summarization, but to investigate incidents by gathering all the existing and associated collateral, doing the analysis, and calling out the key insights that will help expedite remediation or mitigation. Nothing against ChatGPT and all its variants because they're very useful and they have their own purpose. But Microsoft Copilot for Security has a sweet spot as well. And it's all about operating and producing its results in the security paradigm. Now, there are some minimum requirements for Copilot for Security. And the first one is that it only runs in the commercial cloud. The second one basically says that if you have any sort of financial relationship with Microsoft, chances are good that you're able to purchase Copilot for Security. But let's start with the center box because this is the hard requirement. You must have a subscription to tie those Copilot resources to billing. And once you've taken care of that, you might start thinking about what's a security compute unit? Well, that is just a way for Microsoft to provision capacity for Copilot for Security and for billing the aggregate time that the capacity was provisioned. So what do we consider a single security compute unit? Think of it in terms of the least unit of compute resources that can be allocated to support Copilot processing. So when an SEU is allocated or provisioned in your environment, it's the unit of billing for that resource. The concept here is that when you define how much capacity you need, i.e. the number of SEUs, that is how many security compute units you're going to be working with and billed for by the hour. So when we talk about that, considering the pricing model, let's start on the right-hand side where you see there that there's a flat rate for billing, and each SEU is billed at a flat rate of $4 an hour. And this is based on the number of SEUs that were provisioned throughout that billing cycle. To note, the costs are based on the number of SEUs provisioned per hour, regardless of whether or not you use them. So what we have here is that you can go ahead and provision, let's say, 3 SEUs, which will charge you what Microsoft will charge you $12 an hour for, and you'll still get charged for that whether you use them or not. But on the other hand, there are no CPU limits placed upon these provision allocations either. If you maximize the use of those SEUs by running security for Copilot as hard as you can, you may reach capacity of those 3 SEUs and performance may degrade, but Copilot with Security will keep on running. And when the wall clock rolls, you'll be charged for yet another hour's worth of SEUs. In this case, $12. But you got to keep this in mind as well. AI generated content may be incorrect. Doesn't matter where it comes from, as if it's AI generated, there could be issues. And this is really important, especially when you're dealing with something like Copilot for Security, in that it's advising you about what's wrong or what's right with your security. The content that Copilot may create may be incorrect, and you have to put a pin in that and keep that in mind at all times when working with Copilot for Security. It can be wrong, and it's up to you to make sure that whatever it responds with is accurate and correct. But keeping that last slide in mind, there's still a lot of benefits from using AI with security, and the big one is that it protects at machine speed. Almost all systems generate a tremendous number of signals and huge amounts of noise that blast through the entire cyber environment. It's very difficult for analysts to filter that out and focus on what's important and find all the threads that they're looking for. So it's essential that you have something on par with the adversaries as they attack your systems. The ability to surface all relevant information and be able to perform detailed, comprehensive analysis is fundamental in responding and mitigating threats and incidents in a timely manner. But that's not all that Copilot for Security can do. In addition to performing that threat hunting in real time, it delivers on another front, and that being reinforcing your security posture. What I'm talking about here is being able to use security for Copilot to monitor your security configurations in your environment and to advise and ensure that they're staying in alignment with industry best practices. And if there are gaps, Copilot for Security can call that out and offer remediation advice. So, do you think you can outpace your adversaries? I certainly hope so, but the fact of the matter is you need all the help you can get. With Copilot for Security, you'll be able to respond, again, possibly in minutes instead of hours or days, with the critical guidance and context from the results provided by the box on the left. That is the catching what others miss. You know, the last one we're looking at here is on the slide is being able to augment your own team's experience. What I'm referring to here is that you're able to assign more complex and critical investigations to junior analysts with the aid of Copilot to help them along. By the same notion, you'll find that your senior people are even more energized and productive because they have the additional tool that can drive them further, faster, and more accurately than in the past. So the upshot is this. Across the board, you'll realize more value out of your entire team without burning them to crisp with overwork by using Copilot for security. But you may ask, what is Copilot for security? Well, you may think, is it just helping separate security solutions solve security issues and incidents within that context of that tool? You know, for example, like Microsoft Entra, is Copilot for security only interested in identities? Or like in the case of Intune, is security for Copilot only interested in devices? Well, yes and no. What I want you to realize is that, yes, indeed, there are embedded commands for different solutions, and that would be both for Microsoft solutions and third parties, but that's not where the real power lies. The real power lies in the center of Copilot for security, whereas the standalone can look out across all those connections and bring all those signals and data together to assimilate and combine and correlate with Microsoft Threat Intelligence, which, by the way, is about 65 trillion signals a day that Microsoft has to filter through. That in itself is amazing. But getting back to Copilot for security, it combines all that stuff together and provides you with a holistic view of its collective intelligence of your entire landscape. It's beyond powerful. And now that and now where you might think where you might think that Copilot for security is only for your SOC type analysts, but there are other personas that can come into play here and benefit from Copilot for security as well. Insider risk analysts, compliance analysts, identity and access administrator, IT administrators, they can all benefit from the capabilities and knowledge that's being accumulated and aggregated and assimilated and brought forward by Copilot for security. And just like I was mentioning about how the plugins for all the Microsoft solutions provide like a two-way street to be able to embed and do commands, as well as have that telemetry come back into the mothership, which is Copilot for security. The next best thing here is the extensibility of third-party solutions. And what I'm talking about here is, and I'll show you this in the architecture in a moment, but all the Microsoft security solutions have plugins, like I said, that tie back into Copilot for security. But by the same token, all the third-party solutions can also develop plugins and be able to deliver their telemetry and intelligence directly into Copilot for security, as well as having embedded commands. So now some of those barriers that used to exist between third-party solutions and Microsoft solutions regarding the timing and import of data, it kind of melts away. When you're able to take that telemetry in real time from all these solutions and pipe that back into this collective intelligence, Copilot for security becomes a fantastic solution in the sense that it brings that security awareness to bear and makes sense of it all. So, as I mentioned, I wanted to show you some architecture and data flow. And I'm just going to walk through this really quickly. There's just a few things I'd like to call out here. And let's just get started here. With the first step is basically you're making prompts. Either it's from embedded prompts within the Microsoft or your third-party solutions, or it could be standalone with Microsoft Copilot for security. So again, you make your prompt into Copilot for security. The first thing it takes a look at, it goes out and looks into it. What information and what context do I have available to me to help satisfy this response? After doing that, it basically passes that modified prompt back into the LMM. So basically the large language model. And that's where it applies basically with this thing called responsible AI. And the purpose for responsible AI is to dampen down and tamp down some of the erratic responses that might be coming out of generative AI's type solution, and to make sure that it is not only as accurate as it can be, but it's also not presenting offensive or things that maybe that's not relevant, or things that people don't want to see. And once that's done, it'll go ahead and pass back its response back into Copilot. Copilot will continue to go back and harvest the information it needs out of its plugins and do its post-processing. And then finally, it'll pass the resulting prompt back to the prompting body. So the main things to call out here is that of interest is that not only do all the products, and I would imagine third-party products will have them as well if they plug in, will have connections to, they'll have embedded commands within them. But on the other hand, these plugins are basically showing and bringing that telemetry and what's going on with those individual products and bring that back into the Copilot for Security metasphere, if you want to call it that. So now, keeping that architecture in mind, there's these 5 pillars that I'd like to walk through that basically kind of correlate back to what's going on in that last diagram. Certainly, the prompts are provided by the human. The responses are provided by Security for Copilot. But the part that's in between here is the important one. So planner, build context, and responding. The planner corresponds to that first arrow that came over. It says, what kind of things do we have in the plugins? What might the context be? What might be the sampling data that we need to look for? So basically what Copilot's doing here in the planner is basically building a plan of all the available skills, including any third-party partners, and starts to build up what it thinks it might need to satisfy a response for that prompt. It moves it on into build context, where it actually goes out and does the heavy lifting to bring all that content together and start to build an answer for the prompt. It moves on to responding, where it starts combining the context and the data, and it starts to work out what that response might be. Before it presents that to the user, it sends it over at the last step where the data is going to be formatted. It applies responsible AI to make sure that whatever the response is, it's acceptable, or it's within the acceptable range of valid responses, and then it ultimately gets passed back to the responder. Now, when you think about what I just showed you, if you think about the simple prompts, think about this when you actually make a prompt of these 4 categories of things that need to be answered with respect to when you build your prompt. The first one is a goal. What is the specific security information you're looking for? In this case, it's like, give me information about incident 15134. The other one is a context. Why do you need it, and what will we be using information? For a report that I can submit to my manager, kind of starts to frame up what this thing's going to look like that Copilot has to present back to you once it satisfies its context and data needs. The expectations. What format or audience do you want the response be tailored to? Compile the information in a list with a short summary. Tell it what to do with that data. Tell it how to respond to it. And the last one is a source. This is kind of I wouldn't say it's an optional one, but sometimes you may not know where to go, in which case just leave it off. But if you do know where to go look, provide it, because what it'll do is it'll expedite the whole process of being able to generate a response for you. And it will also eliminate the risk of getting red herrings or inaccurate information included in the response. Some simple prompts. How can I improve my security posture? Summarize this incident in bullets. What's log for shell? Tell me about Defender incidents 20259. These are all simple prompts that you can actually start with and be able to start harvesting information out of Copilot for Security and consequently your underlying systems. But there's other prompting tips that you have to understand in order to get the most value out of Copilot for Security. You need to be specific, clear, and concise. Coming up with a basic prompt that says Pearl Fleet actor, it certainly can make sense of that, but the sense it makes out of it may not be exactly what you're interested in. A better prompt would be, can you give me information about Pearl Fleet activity, including a list of known indicators of compromise and tools, tactics, and procedures? That really starts to narrow it down about what Copilot needs to be bringing back to you, instead of just anything it happens to find about Pearl Fleet actor. The other thing to keep in mind is that you're going to have to iterate. And if you think back of those 4 boxes that I just showed you about the components of a prompt, you may have to build upon those as you go, as you start to refine what it is that Copilot is bringing back to you. So the idea here is you continue to iterate and further clarify and further narrow down what it is that Copilot is bringing back to you, and consequently the format that it presents it to you in. So the next one is provide that context of where to narrow down where Copilot will look. Copilot for Security will look. This is actually, this is not only a time saver, but again, you'll end up finding more accurate information coming back out of it if you be more specific about where you think this information may lie. So summarize incident 15134. it's going to be looking across an entire spectrum of plugins to find out where it might find something about incident 1534. By specifying explicitly that you want to look at Microsoft Defender XDR, that really narrows down where it needs to look. So it'll drop directly into that and provide and look for anything it can find dealing with 1534, 134, basically the incident you're interested in. Okay, so the next one is this is important as well. It gets better results to it. Is give positive instructions about what not to do. Don't tell it that. Tell things in a positive way. Say, for example, give me a list of unmanaged devices in my network. A better prompt would be, give me a list of high-risk managed devices in my network. If they're named test, remove them from the list. Those are two positive things that Copilot can work on. Bring me the list of all high-risk unmanaged devices in my network. But if they happen to fall, if they're named test, I don't want to see them, so get them out of the list. Those are both positive things to do. That would be opposed to saying, give me a list of all high-risk unmanaged devices, but skip the test ones. Yeah, that's negative with the positive. You want to do positive. Bring me all the devices, but remove the ones that are negative. Okay, so the last one is, how do you address Copilot as you? So rather than referring to it as a model or assistant, refer to it as like, you should reformat this in a more simplified way. You must go here to go find what you're looking for. It's interesting, but it does take on its own somewhat of its own persona. Now, when you actually get to the point of let's say you're ready to onboard Copilot for Security, the process is extremely straightforward, very simple, and does not take any time at all. You basically provision your capacity. That means how many SUs would you like? You associate your capacity to the Copilot for Security. You acknowledge where your customer data will be stored. You select among data sharing options, and you acknowledge the default rules that can access Copilot for Security, and then assign the roles to users. That all takes about a minute and 30 seconds to get through with the UI from Copilot for Security. But then once that's done, it's really important. You should take the tour for Copilot for Security. You should try out all the standalone. You should try out standalone as well as the embedded experiences. Investigate and learn about integrations. And by all means, check out the primary use cases, because that might expand your vision about who can actually benefit from using Copilot for Security. Which brings us to personas beyond the SOC analysts. It's important, as I said, to explore other personas outside SOC analysts to understand where Copilot for Security can provide additional value. The point being that there are more people in the organization that can take advantage and be able to use Copilot to good ends beyond just your normal SOC analysts. Extensibility. Okay. Let's talk about these one by one, and we'll start with skills. So a skill or a set of skills is a way for Copilot for Security to help you with a specific security task, such as scanning for vulnerabilities, applying patches, or enforcing policies. They're modular and reusable, meaning that you combine them to create different workflows and scenarios that suit your needs and preferences. Like, for example, you can use a skill to scan your cloud infrastructure for misconfigurations, and then use another skill to remediate them automatically. Skills are adaptive and intelligent, meaning that they can learn from your feedback and behavior and optimize their performance and recommendations over time. For example, a skill can learn what your patching preferences are and scheduling, and suggest the best time and method to apply patches to your systems. You can also customize and create your own skills using Copilot for Security SDK, and it provides the tools and templates that you can design and implement your own skills. For example, you can use the SDK to create a skill that integrates with your existing security tools and processes, or a skill that performs a unique security task that's not available in the catalog. For example, okay. So moving on to plugins. Plugins are skills that enhance and enrich the data and functionality of the other skills, services, and products. Plugin skills can add more context to an event log, alert, incident, or policy by retrieving and analyzing the information from those external sources, such as threat intelligence feeds, asset inventories, configuration management databases, or vulnerability scanners. Plugin skills can also improve the interoperability and integration of different security solutions by enabling data exchange and automation across multiple platforms and tools. For example, a plugin skill can send an alert from one security product to another for further investigation or remediation, or trigger an action or workflow based upon a predefined condition or policy. You can discover and activate plugin skills from the Copilot Security Catalog, which includes plugin skills for various security domains and products. For example, you can find a plugin for skills for event enrichment, alert correlation, incident response, policy compliance, and a whole lot more. And you can also customize and create your own plugins skills using Copilot for Security SDK. Now, prompt books, on the other hand, now they're a collection of plugin skills. So each one is building on each one. Skills feed into plugins, plugins skills feed into prompt books. And what we see here is that, again, the prompt book is a collection of plugin skills that can be executed in sequence or in parallel to achieve a specific security goal or task. For example, you can create a prompt book for incident response that includes plugin skills for alert triage, investigation, containment, and recovery. Prompt books are a collection of plugin skills to be executed. You can also embed Copilot for Security UI in your own SaaS applications or third-party portals. This way you can leverage the power and flexibility of Copilot for Security without leaving your preferred environment or workflow. So with respect to value propositions, it should easily be recognized that Copilot for Security really does augment our human expertise, and consequently, it ends up in increasing our speed and efficiencies. But it also lends itself to a dynamic, adaptive application of our SOC analysts and improving processes. But it can also lend itself to dynamic, adaptive application of analysts and improving processes and overall management of the systems. But Copilot for Security is not a magic solution that takes care of all your security needs. You still need to have the right expertise and the right guidance to make the most of its capabilities and features. That's why partnering with a systems integrator such as Insight can make a huge difference in your security posture and outcomes. Insight has the wisdom and intuition and experience to help you design, implement, and optimize your security operations. We can help customize Copilot for Security to fit your environment and its policies and integrate with any of your existing tools and workflows. Insight can also help you monitor, analyze, and act upon the data and insights surfaced and generated by Copilot for Security, thereby ensuring that you have a comprehensive and proactive approach to your security posture. Insight and Copilot for Security team up to help deliver a new level of security excellence and efficiency by leveraging the power, knowledge, and automation of Copilot for Security to protect your assets and data from ever-evolving threats.
Don't forget to schedule a meeting with our experts to go further, faster, and be future ready with Copilot.